Inspiring interviews with today's top landlords. This is the Rental Income Podcast. And now, Dan Lane.
Ray and Letitia, you recently bought a rental property in your retirement account. Would you say it was a pretty easy process?
We thought that, it would be an easier process. And
basically, we got into it thinking that by us already owning rental property through Section 8 that we currently have, we thought it was just going to be a simpler process. But lo and behold, it was something totally different with a lot of different steps that we had to go through.
It's our own money. It's like we can play with it ourselves to see if this actually works.
Buying a rental property in a retirement account can be a huge opportunity, but there's a lot of little things to figure out. And if you don't get everything exactly right, the IRS could hit you with a huge tax bill. And on the podcast today, Ray and Letitia are going to share with us what they learned. They had a lot to figure out and everything didn't go entirely smoothly. So we'll talk about what happened. I also want to ask them about one thing that happened that's really kind of scary. Someone that was trying to help them get things set up gave them some really bad advice that could have invalidated their entire IRA. Ray and Letitia knew better, and they were able to avoid this mistake. So we'll talk about what happened. Joining us on the show today from Birmingham, Alabama, is Ray and Letitia Means. We'll take a quick break to thank our sponsors. We'll come right back and we'll talk to Ray and Letitia. It's a lot of work to find a really good rental property. And when you actually find that property, you want to make sure you're working with a lender that can get that loan closed. The lender that I recommend is Chaley Ridge from Ridge Lending Group. She's a nationwide lender and her specialty is helping investors finance rental properties. She has a ton of loan programs and she can find something customized to you for your situation. If you want to find out more or you're ready to get started today, just go to ridgelendinggroup.com. That's RIDGE lendinggroup.com. NMLS 42056.
Rental Income Podcast.
This money that you had in your IRA, this is just money that you've saved up over your career just by putting little bits of money out of each paycheck and just investing it into your 401k. That was kind of the source of the money?
Yeah, that was it was my pension and it was also my 401k. So I worked 20 years in the automotive industry. I recently just retired last year. And so the 100% of the money came from both my 401k and my pension. And once I retired, I rolled it over into the self-directed IRA.
Most people are going to take their 401k money and they're going to roll it over to an IRA with Fidelity or Schwab or one of the big brokerage houses. And that process is usually pretty straightforward, but I guess you guys found that buying a rental property isn't as easy as just rolling it over into the S&P 500.
That's correct. Yes, it was so difficult. At first, we had to find someone who understood what we wanted to do. I would say it's important to, one of the things when we got everything set up and say we finalized that this is going to be the company we're going to work with our self-directed IRA. And then we were talking to our retirement company. Mm-hmm. And when we were talking to them, they wanted to send the check directly to Ray. And what we were guided by instructions was it had to be in the check had to be in the name of the trust that we were building from this retirement. So if they had sent that check directly to Ray, then it's like a cash out. So that was one of the big things we learned. Another thing.
Wow. Let me, that's such a big thing. So with an IRA, when you're going to roll over your IRA from one brokerage to the other brokerage, the check can't go to you. It has to go to the other brokerage.
And it has to be the name of that brokerage.
Yeah. And if you mess that up and they send you the check, now you've got to pay taxes on the entire amount. So that was a major catch. I mean, that would have meant a huge tax bill if you had cashed that check.
So our trust company that we were dealing with, IRA, had established us an account. And that account was FBO in my husband's name. And so if they would have just sent my husband's name without the direction of the FBO, then it would have been a tax penalty. It's like I think a lot of times people don't understand when you're talking to these major retirement companies that they don't understand what you're trying to do when you want to roll it over,
Right.
and you
Right.
have to emphasize, communicate the purpose, what you're trying to do, and the direction it needs to go in. Um, Another thing was establishing in a bank, finding a bank. And you think, you could just go to a local bank and get this account set up. Well, that wasn't true. You have to, there are certain banks that, okay, if you go in, one of the rules are you can't commingle your personal funds with this trust. So a regular bank will, when you go in and establish a bank, they're going to want some type of fee. The bank we went to asked us to get the account open, that we need to establish a fee, a $15 fee to open the account. Well, we said we can't do that, but we do have funds in our IRA account that we want to transfer over to this account. And so we had to find an account or a bank that's used to dealing with this type of fund, these types of funds. And we found an online bank, which was uncomfortable, but we had to trust the process in a way. And we did some research with that online bank. And that's how we were able to transfer the funds from the IRA now to a bank to allow us to do purchases.
That's another thing that you guys were really smart about, because if you had put that $15 into your bank account to open it up, that could have invalidated your whole IRA. And again, you would have had a huge tax bill.
Oh yeah, it would have been a big penalty, and you talking about tens of thousands of dollars for it being penalized by the IRS just for a simple $15 deposit.
Right.
And that's all the bank required us to do was simply pay $15 to open up the account. And we was trying to explain to them, no, if we pay you this $15 and we was to ever get audited, we was gonna pretty much have to pay tens of thousands of dollars just for $15.
Right.
And they did not understand that, and so that's why we decided to go back online to call Directed Trust Company again and ask them what banks do you actually recommend, and they gave us several online banks to actually do some research on. And once we did, like Tisha just said, we found one that we felt comfortable with. But dealing with somebody online with that amount of money, it was kind of uncomfortable to begin with.
It was frightening, Dan.
Oh, I bet. I bet. So to review here, the process, if someone wants to buy a property in the IRA, the first thing you need to do is find, I guess, what would you call it, like a brokerage or like an IRA company that's going to facilitate the transaction. That's the very first thing you need to do. Go to a company that specializes in this.
Yeah, the first thing you need to do is find a company that specializes in self-directed IRA, just not your typical IRA. The second thing that you need to do is ensure that all your documents, once they create your corporate book, make sure that all the tax ID number, the information for us, the address, all those items are actually lined up.
And that's what's one of the great benefits about dealing with a IRA company that knows what they're doing about these types of funds. They prepare you for all of this. They give you a corporate book. You have your business name. They develop your LLC. You also have attorneys who can help guide you through the legal terms of this process. So we didn't have to do this by ourselves, even though it felt like we was doing it by ourselves. But really, with that self-directed company, they packaged it so well that you had all the information, your corporate book, to now go and purchase, the house using your business.
And what was the name of the company that you guys used?
It was Directed Trust Company.
Directed Trust Company. Okay.
Yeah.
So then the process, then they get the LLC set up, and so the LLC is going to be owned by the IRA.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. So now you've got everything set up. You've got your tax ID. The IRA company has helped you walk through the process. And now you basically have this money in a checking account, right? Your IRA funds are in the checking account, and you can go shopping for a property.
Yes, and that sounds really like a really quick process, but I just want to remind you, we started this process in August of last year, And then to get the funds and everything settled, it was beginning of this year, January, when everything
Wow.
finally,
Okay.
yeah.
So you
So
got to leave some time to get this going. Now,
yeah.
how much money did you guys have in the IRA to work with?
380,000.
Okay. Now, you got to you can't use the entire 380,000 to buy a property, right? Because
Oh no.
I imagine you got to leave some money back because you
Yeah, you got
can't.
to have.
Yeah, you can't spend your own money like to even pay a utility bill while you're getting the property up and running. Everything has to come out of that IRA.
Yeah, everything comes out of IRA, and the IRA is actually linked to the online bank. And the bank that we recommend personally that we deal with for the self-directed IRA is Titan Bank. So Titan Bank, they're very helpful for us wire transfers, especially when you're dealing with the closing, when you have the home appraisal, or when you have the home inspection. And I advise a lot of your audience is that when you're dealing with a real estate, especially when you're dealing with a rental, it's very important that the property is either a new construction or the home is newly renovated. And the reason being is that according to the IRS Force Code, you can't do anything to that property. You can't do anything is you can't cut the grass. You can't change a light bulb. You can't do anything physical to the actual home. So if you go to the home and you see something that's out of place, or you want to fix something that may be real quick that you do at your personal residence, you can't do that. You have to actually hire somebody to actually do those
Right.
services for you. So it's very important that you do your due diligence when you're deciding on what property to actually buy.
That's a good point. Yeah, you got to be really careful with that. And then I guess as far as managing the property, can you manage it or do you have to get a property manager?
We're going to go with a property management because both of my wife and I, we still work full time, and we still got a couple of years to go before we actually retire. Because when I retired, 1 week later, I end up right back into the job force, and my wife is currently, excuse me, she's currently still working also. So us being retired is going to be a way off.
Sure. Okay. Okay. So now you've got the money in the checkbook. You're ready to go shopping. What was your next step? Like like did you start looking locally or were you wanting to invest out of state?
Well, we always thought about going somewhere or purchasing a property where we would want to go. And so we went to Gulf Shores, we went to Orange Beach, Alabama, and for the price that you were speaking earlier about a budget, I mean, or having enough cushion. We didn't want to invest the entire money into that property, but if you want to get those type of properties, you pretty much had to play a pay more than we wanted to pay. So we landed in Louisiana. We always loved Louisiana, New Orleans, Louisiana, and we thought that once we did some research, that the amount of property that we can get for our money was the best choice to go.
Okay. So you decide on Louisiana and you all live in Alabama. So did you find a local realtor to help you look around?
We found a Louisiana, New Orleans realtor.
Okay.
And the plan was going in trying to find a place that we can Airbnb.
Okay.
And that we was thinking about the dating Airbnb rates that we want to do. And we asked questions, and this realtor really helped us with finding different houses in the areas that we want to deal with.
Now, when you actually found the property, is it just as simple as, hey, we're making a cash offer, or is the offer more complicated because it's in the IRA?
No, actually, it was more simpler because we had the cash offer.
Okay, so the seller just sees it as cash. This is a cash
Yeah.
offer, and it doesn't. They don't even really know, other than looking at the name of the buyer, that this is an IRA purchase.
Yeah, they
Okay.
had no clue we was making this out of our IRA.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
So then you make the offer, and And did you find a new construction property?
Yes. The house is located in Chalmette, Louisiana. It was just finished being built this year. And when it was listed around 317. And then it went down to 304. They accepted the offer of 278. And
Wow.
so we were able to get a great deal for this property. I think it appraised at like 298. So we came in with some equity on the property, and we now felt really good that we now own another property. We own some property here, but we own property in Louisiana, so that kind of felt good, and we can put our hands. So,
all right, so 278 was the purchase, and then with it being an Airbnb, and now you've got to buy furniture. So the furniture is also going to be purchased using the IRA money.
yes,
right?
Correct.
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
how was that to coordinate the furniture from out of state? Were there any lessons you learned going through that process?
I couldn't really just wait for furniture to get there whenever we purchased the property and wait for it to arrive. When it had to be all a go. So it had to be a kind of a quick process. So we purchased everything, most of the furniture here, and then we hired a moving company to have it transported to Chalmette.
Typically, for the past 20 years, I've just been getting statements in the mail telling me what kind of stock I own in different mutual funds. But for me to actually have money for retirement that I'm actually buying couches with,
right.
It's kind of bizarre. It throws you off a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. So then you bought the furniture, you've got the house, and then you've also now got some money set aside to pay to keep the property going, and if anything comes up, you've got that cash in the IRA.
Exactly. Yes.
Now, to get the Airbnb up and running, did you run into any trouble? I know that a lot of jurisdictions are having restrictions on where you can Airbnb and where you can't Airbnb. Like, was that something that you were looking at before you made a purchase?
Oh yeah, we was doing research in the area, both in Gulf Shores, Foley, Alabama, and Orleans. And once we had decided on Chalmette, the reason why we had chosen Chalmette and St. Bernard Parish is because based off the information that we had researched on the website, it had showed us that they did not have any issues for us ordinances that kept and prevented us from actually creating a Airbnb in that actual parish. A couple of things they ask for: they want to see the home inspection, they want to see the home appraisal. You have to get a business license. All the things that we had our mindset on actually doing. So here we are with all these documents in our hand. We go to the county courthouse, and I talked to the young lady and explained to her that we had recently just purchased a property in Chalmette, that we wanted to hand over the documents that's required to file the title or whatnot. And I said, well, we doing a short-term rental. And the first thing the lady said was, oh no, we don't do that. I said, excuse me? She said, no, we don't do short-term rentals in Chalmette anymore. I said, well, I was just on your website. I had just purchased a property. My wife and I, we just drove from Birmingham, Alabama. We talked to the real estate agent. We talked to the title company. Everybody that we had came into contact with when we specifically told them that we was going to do an Airbnb in Chalmette, nobody told us about they had stopped it. So turns out before they got an opportunity to update their actual website for the parish, they had passed a moratorium that they only allow Airbnbs for rentals that are 28 days or more. So no 3 to 5 days, 1 day rentals for Airbnb. They don't allow it. The only thing that they allow is for rentals that's 28 days or more. So it did a quick pivot for us.
Wow. So you just bought a property that you bought it with the understanding that you were going to Airbnb it, and it was totally legal when you bought it. But then when it comes time to get things going, the ordinance had changed and they had outlawed Airbnb in the area where your property is.
Right. And our realtor, he kept us informed about different things that was going on. We initially thought we wanted the property to be in New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
And well, that particular parish is going through a moratorium.
Mhm.
And so when we get there, we purchased the property in March. That moratorium for St. Bernard Parish had just changed in March. So here we are. We can pay cash offers and furniture movings and all that good stuff. And now we're having to change our business model
Wow.
from what we initially thought.
What a nightmare. I mean, that is absolutely incredible and just horrible timing that this changed right as you bought the property. So then what are you going to do now?
Well, from listening to your show, Dan, I heard many of your guests talk about doing furnish finders, doing short-term rentals.
Mm-hmm.
And so in my mind, I went to, okay, let's just do short-term rentals, 30 days or more. And I'm sure there's plenty of traveling nurses throughout New Orleans, St.
Sure.
Bernard for a place to stay. It took my husband by a loop for a minute, but we were able to just kind of pivot to a new direction, a new business model, I guess, so to speak.
And the great thing that we like about it, Dan, is when we kind of chuckle about it now, but it wasn't a chuckling moment then. But the thing about it is now is that when we lay down and think about it, we pay cash for the property. We actually own the property, so there's no mortgage payment.
Right.
In the mail waiting on us to see what we're going to do, trying to juggle these finances. And we're constantly seeing the money from the self-directed IRA to be depleted every month by us paying cash money for the property. At least we know that once the property is rented, that money goes directly back into the trust. But we don't have to be bogged down or concerned thinking that a mortgage payment is going to be something
Right.
that's going to completely wipe out the IRA.
Absolutely. Yeah. Way less risk not having that mortgage payment. And, I think doing a midterm rental, you're still going to have really good cash flow on that property. Now, what if for whatever reason, and I know the midterm rental is going to work out fine for you guys. That's a great niche to be in. But if you had to get a long-term tenant in that property and the rent was maybe even a little bit lower, this would still work because you don't have a mortgage.
Exactly. It still works.
Yeah.
And we think about and we kind of think about it now is that if we was to have the real Airbnb short-term rentals where you have people to come and they rent your property from 1 day to 5 day, which is the average, that's extra cleaning fees that would have to be paid for the cleaning service. That's a lot of more wear and tear on your property compared to somebody who's going to be staying in the property a little bit longer, or 28 days or more.
That really illustrates how important it is to always be flexible. The rules for anything can change at any time, and there's always a way to be successful. You just might need to figure out a different way to do things, some new strategies or new tactics, but you can always figure out a way to make it work. And it sounds like Ray and Letitia have figured that out, and I know they're going to be very successful with their midterm rental. Well, if Ray and Letitia inspired you and you're ready to buy your first property or you want to add to your portfolio, the lender that I recommend is our sponsor today. It's Chaley Ridge from Ridge Lending Group. Chaley is a nationwide lender, and her specialty is helping investors finance rental properties. She has a ton of different loan programs, and she can find something that'll work for you in your situation. If you want to find out more or you want to set up a time to talk to Chaley personally, you can reach out to her at ridgelendinggroup.com. That's RIDGE lendinggroup.com, NMLS 42056. Thank you so much for checking out the podcast today. Make sure you hit that follow button. I put out a new interview every single Tuesday, and if you're following the show, you'll get notified as soon as the next episode comes out. My name is Dan Lane, and this has been the Rental Income Podcast.